I'll get my coat, dear Gareth, man of honour. What's that say? The honour of my life. For more on this, Mark's still here. I say goodbye to him. I forgot you were in this segment, Mark.
It's wishful thinking.
Apologies.
Wishful thinking.
Nedum Onuoha, let's start with you. We haven't spoken to you about what happened to England.
We talked about this yesterday, and we talked about Man United yesterday.
But Nedum wasn't here.
Well, no.
Nedum wasn't here, and it's slim pickings. You're going on holiday in 2 days.
That's why I'm pushing you towards these two chaps.
Yeah, that's why I've done. I wasn't even talking to you. You didn't have to jump in.
I'm making sure when Nedum and Oggy are finished, you do not come back to me on this.
Right, that's fine. I won't. You can just go for a cup of coffee. It's fine. Nedum, overall, the press has been very positive about Gareth Southgate and his achievements during his time as manager of England. Is there any sort of argument that England made it to the final, for example, of this tournament in spite of Southgate?
Ooh, that's a good question. And I know Craig doesn't want to hear us talking about United and so on, but now that he's out the door, it kind of feels how like the FA Cup final felt with Ten Hag. Like people had been criticising him all year, and it's like, oh no, Eric, we've always liked you. Everything's fantastic. What a load of nonsense. But I think from this sort of like England perspective, I think there is a benefit in terms of some of the work that he did, because I think overall the changes he's made across the last few years have led them to be in this position where they arrived there. And they have a belief. They've got a good mix of, say, experience and youth. And even though some people, like basically with Southgate, people either really like him or they think he's no good. So when, for example, Kane comes off at 60, some people are like, oh, it's an amazing decision to take off your captain after 60 minutes, England's record goal scorer. That's very brave. But then the other side has said, well, he should have done it like 15 minutes earlier. He should never have started. But the fact is he made those changes, and not least of all in the game before against Netherlands. You know, you bring on Cole Palmer, bring on Ollie Watkins, and you score a goal in the last minute that takes you to the final. So I wouldn't necessarily say it's in spite of him. I think obviously there were sort of deficiencies in terms of how England performed overall through the tournament, but they were still in with a chance to win the whole thing. And in the final, you know, they didn't have their best game. They came up against the Spain side where, for their abilities and the way they played, they really strangled England and made it very, very difficult. Southgate could have made some tweaks and so on, but I think on the day, Spain just felt like they were going to win that match. So I don't think it was in spite of him. I think he will probably have regrets, as will the players. But I think overall, like, you know, when we look at English football history, it's not so great that we can't appreciate the fact that they made it to two of the last European Championship finals. Yes, they're disappointed they didn't finish it off. But, you know, to say that they should be there every single time, I think would be missing the point.
What's telling, though, Nedum, isn't it? If when a big club sacks their manager, Gareth Southgate isn't going to be at the top of anybody's list, is he?
Yeah, that is fair, but I don't know off the top of my head many international managers who, you know, give up that role, whether they're sacked and so on, and all of a sudden there's a massive job waiting for them on the other side. I think we tend to see that more happen the other way, whereby, you know, even with this England job, the USA job, someone like a Jurgen Klopp, or they're talking Guardiola's, oh, we'd love to have them for the national team. But then there's something about international football where when you do leave it, the sort of like taste that's left in the mouth in terms of how people perceive you is never as good as it was when you first arrived, whether you've almost been successful or you haven't been, if you're doing it for one of those bigger nations. So I don't think he's going to be somebody who, you know, feels a different fate to anybody else in the same sort of situation. But he seems like he's somebody that's going to be very keen to go into club football, in my opinion. Is probably one of the big reasons why he resigned. But where he goes to next, I'm not sure. But as I said, unless someone can tell me otherwise, I can't think of many managers that have left those big, high-profile international jobs and gone straight into a job that's just as big club-wise.
Who's going to be the next manager, Mark?
Of England?
Yes.
I think Graham Potter is, unfortunately, you know, we've had this discussion before, Graham Potter. I think the FA would like Eddie Howe. I think Eddie Howe would be the first choice because he's English, he's what they want, an English manager. He's a proven manager in terms of top level. He's got a lot more experience than Graham Potter, but I don't think Newcastle want him to go. I think Eddie Howe's got a question to ask of Newcastle because they have made changes behind the scenes. Dan Ashworth has left, as we know, he's technical director. Amanda Stabler, who was a big part of him coming as well, part of the ownership group, she's left also. So maybe Eddie Howe needs a bit of reassurance from Newcastle that if he stays, he will have a future there, but he has got a long-term contract. So I think he's the ideal scenario, but I don't think the FA would pursue him in the sense that it would cost a lot in compensation. So I think Graham Potter is a strong candidate within the FA. I think Lee Carsley as well, who a lot of people won't be aware of, but You know, he's the under-21 coach. He won the European under-21 tournament last summer with the likes of Cole Palmer, Anthony Gordon. I think he'll be the interim coach when they play the Republic of Ireland, his former team, in September. But I think that's what we're looking at. And I think Mauricio Pochettino is a strong candidate as well. But again, maybe the cost of hiring Pochettino might be a bit too high. You know, I think they should go for Jurgen Klopp. I mean, that would be my choice. I don't think he'd take it, but they have to show the ambition. We keep hearing about how big a nation England are, how rich the FA is. We'll prove it. You know, stop hiding behind, you know, wanting an English coach. You want the best coach, but I don't think they'll go down that route. So I think you're looking at Graham Potter or Lee Carsley. And I know it's not going to excite a lot of people. You know, when the first game is Finland.
We've lost it.
They want to pay 4 or 5 mil. Is he away again?
He's away. I thought you'd gone.
He needs a good slap, didn't he? Really hit him over the head with that router. They only wanted to pay 4 or 5 million pounds for the manager. It's a lot of money, I know, but you know the likes of Jurgen Klopp and the elite level managers are probably 3 and 4 times that, and I don't think the FA either want to pay it or maybe don't have the money for it, and paying that and taking money away from all the other projects that they're running with grassroots football and whatnot. I actually think Eddie Howe is a very good candidate in terms of the profile, super squeaky clean, plays some nice football. Definitely if you're looking at the credentials of Southgate when he came in and where Eddie Howe is, there's no comparison. There really is. A guy did a wonderful job at Bournemouth, and when he goes into this Newcastle side, Stevie made this point yesterday. When he went into Newcastle, it was off the back of Rafa Benitez and Steve Bruce, and their football was horrendous. It was 30% possession. It wasn't very good to watch. England are not that bad, but it hasn't been brilliant to watch. And he managed to turn around Newcastle into playing a very attacking football. And I actually think he would be a very good candidate. And also, if they're offering him the job, and I don't know if they are, is that he's got something to think about. You know, it's not every year you're going to get offered the England job, but then he has to look at it and think, right, this is a great job at Newcastle. There's a lot of money coming there from Saudi Arabia. But last year it tailed off a little bit.
Yeah.
Now, what is my ceiling at this club, and what if things turn
And surely
back?
how loyal is this club to me as well?
Exactly. When things turn sour, if they do turn sour, and the form of last year continues into this year, and I'm not suggesting that it will, but I mean, it could, and all of a sudden, he's been given a nice payday, thank you very much, you're out the door. The England job is gone by that point. So it's very difficult sometimes to weigh things up. But I think if you're looking at what the FA like, it's, as Augie said, it's English. It's a relatively young manager. It's somebody who is unlikely to be hitting the front pages of the newspapers and causing controversy, and actually has a pretty reasonable or pretty good style of how his teams play.
Yep.
I think when you look at all those aspects, then apart from the fact he's in a job and compensation might have to be paid, I think Eddie Howe is a pretty good candidate.
What do you think? Who would you choose, Nedum?
I don't know. I really don't know, to be honest, because the thing with international football is that, especially from an English standpoint, it seems like people are pining to bring the manager that will almost guarantee success at that final step. You know, winning a European Championships, winning a World Cup. But those managers, like, they don't really exist as such to be going from one place to the next. Like, you're not going to get a Deschamps. You know, you're not going to be getting another manager, you know, that's doing it for another country as such, because those countries are sort of pinned down to them. Like Deschamps is French, like the Spanish manager is Spanish. So maybe Eddie Howe, maybe Graham Potter, maybe Lee Carsley. I like the idea of Carsley going up from the 21s to the first team. But again, I personally feel like one of the issues with English football is the fact that you're caught in this eternal loop whereby you want someone to go and win it, but then it has to look a certain way. It has to be this person. It has to be this big name. They'll definitely do it. But it's international football and there's no guarantee. And again, England don't have this rich history of being wholly successful, yet still the demands of the next manager to come in seem like they're going to be something that's beyond just style of play. You're bringing in a manager that will only succeed if they win a World Cup or win a European Championships. Like, who is that? But in fairness, though, whoever they do pick, I think it's fair to say, like, realistically, the manager has left, Gareth Southgate, but the team is not in crisis. So there are some tools there for things to, say, maybe develop with some of the young talent that they do have. But again, like, who's good enough objectively to be able to nurture that talent and guarantee success? Because that's the way that some people talk about that role. Because for the last manager to be perceived as a failure, you know, it says a lot about the perception of them and their football.
Let's be honest, the FA haven't really got a great track record in picking managers in recent years. They went Roy Hodgson, it was a disaster. They went Sam Allardyce off the back of that, it was a disaster. They had nowhere to go. And Southgate was, you know,
under 21s.
Under 21s, and they were like, okay, let's find a safe pair of hands, and Gareth Southgate's nice and clean, and let's just do this, and if it doesn't work, we can move on. And it kind of, Gareth Southgate actually did a pretty good job. We can debate the style of football and all that, but you know, that was a pretty good job, pretty more than decent job getting to these finals and semi-finals. So they stumbled on that. They didn't. It wasn't through their great mindset of looking out.
It's more by luck than judgment.
Absolutely, and it sort of fell in the lap. So at the end of the day, Eddie Howe wouldn't be somebody who is super exciting again for a lot of people. They all want the big names. It's never that simple. The other thing is the Lee Carsley thing from promoting from within.
Yeah.
I might be wrong, but it seems to me like England are looking at it and going, Spain did it.
Well, they worked for De La Fuente, didn't they?
Well, that's what I mean, but that's not the way to go about it. Well, let's just copy. You know, let's work for Spain, so it's going to work for us.
Right.
I just don't like that mindset. It's like, they got a foreign manager. We need to go and get Fabio Capello now, which they did. That didn't work either. You've got to make these decisions for yourself. You can't always look at other countries and go, because the whole dynamics of what they do in Spain is different to what they do in England. So just because that worked brilliantly for Spain does not, you know, England can't go, well, it worked for Spain, so we're going to do it, it's going to work for us. Doesn't happen like that.